Hello, everyone. So I just wanted to make a video about how do you access your spiritual gifts, right? So you're wanting to move into your absolute greatest possible spiritual powers. You see yourself as someone who has these different spiritual gifts, talents, this access to energy. You're a clairvoyant in some aspects, or you can have this sense in your body and your being in sort of your intuition that you have maybe some psychic capabilities, that you really have these huge spiritual gifts. And for a lot of people, because I've worked with a lot of people that have a lot of spiritual gifts, that have a lot of spiritual talents, and what can come with this is a lot of fear of like, whoa, like what would happen if I truly stepped into my ultimate sort of spiritual gifts, my spiritual power? It's something that we're afraid of. We're like, will I be able to hold it? Will I be able to handle that much power? What happens when I move into that much power? The amount of responsibility. What will other people think? How will other people feel? Will it be too much? Would it be too woo-woo? Will I be able to even hold it or handle it? Will I be able to hold that much light? And so, we think moving to spiritual gifts, we do all these sort of spiritual activities. We do ayahuasca, we do plant medicine, we go to all these ceremonies, we do whatever we can to try and ignite sort of the crown chakra. What do we do to ignite the crown chakra? And I'm actually just really going to simplify this process, because we're forever going to be afraid of our spiritual gifts and powers until our lower chakras, specifically our root and our sacral chakras, are open enough to be able to create and support a foundation for the opening of the crown, right? So if we are someone who's afraid of our spiritual gifts, powers, we want to access these powers, but there's some hesitation, there's some trepidation of like, oh shit, like what happens if I move? Like, shit, Jamie, am I going to be walking on water? Am I going to become Jesus? What's going on here? So we have to open the root so that the root can support the opening of the crown. The root chakra is the first chakra to open. The crown chakra is the last chakra to open. When it comes to opening the energy centers, the chakras in a very sort of harmonious balance. So at the root chakra, we have our core trauma. So the way that we actually move into accessing our spiritual gifts is by dealing with our very fundamental earthly core root trauma. So our core root trauma lives at the base of our spine, right at our sacrum, right at our tailbone. The core root trauma is like a big T trauma that happened to us, one singular event, or maybe a combination of similarly themed events that lives at our root. And so this is basically a core fear. So it's a singular event or a complexity of events that leads to this core fear. Then we have what's called, so this core fear, this core trauma creates a core story. This is the story that we continue to tell ourselves. We continue to tell ourselves using the language of I always, I never. I always do this. I never get to do this. This never happens. It's a very absolute themed language story that what it does is it creates a core survival identity of how the identity that we find worth belonging in the family of origin. So core story leads to this core survival identity in the family of origin. And this core story and this core survival identity in the family of origin, it creates something that is historically elusive in our life. That no matter what we do, we can't create this peace in our life. That we can't move into course correcting this core story, and we can't move into what is historically elusive to us. So in order to access our spiritual gifts, we have to deal with our deepest core trauma that lives in our root chakra. Because once the root chakra truly starts to open, when we deal with the truth and the depths of our core trauma at the root, then the body will move into this sort of natural facilitation where the chakras will begin to counterbalance and open together and reorient so that they're spinning at the same time, right? So we always think that if we're spiritually gifted, we have to do all these crazy sort of spiritual things, these sort of woo-woo practices to activate the crown chakra. No, we actually just have to heal our of the earth core trauma that doesn't allow the root to open and integrate so energy can come down. Now this is going to create this process of slowly moving up until all of a sudden we move into the crown chakra. So, maybe we're someone who's accessing our spiritual gifts because our crown chakra is open. And so, but we're not really going to be able to integrate those gifts. We're not going to be able to capitalize on those gifts. Those gifts are going to feel like more like a kryptonite. They're going to feel like more like a burden. So if we actually begin by dealing with the root, then we're creating the foundation to support the opening of our spiritual gifts. This is the same reason why people are always frightened to move into their spiritual powers. This is why people are really hesitant to move into that level of opening of the crown. It's because their root chakra doesn't have enough of a foundation. They haven't worked through enough of their core trauma, that core story, that thing in their life that has been historically elusive to support the opening of the crown. Okay, so now the root opens. And the next piece that I'm going to talk about, which is really, really important when it comes to moving into our spiritual gifts, we need to experience a very big attachment rupture. An attachment rupture is a familial rupture, a rupture with the ancestors of origin, or a primary romantic relationship attachment rupture. What happens when you experience this attachment rupture is we're experiencing a replication of the break in connection that happened when we were in those pre-verbal years, in the womb, from 0 to 3, out of the womb. And so through this familial rupture, this primary romantic relationship rupture, and a rupture with the ancestors of origin. When I say a rupture with the ancestors of origin, I mean that we break some sort of unwritten, unconscious loyalty with the ancestors of lineage. And typically, what opens this up is a rupture in a romantic relationship, which now, as we're beginning to move through the fear and terror that occurred in that break in connection with the primary caregivers, now our container is expanding to God. Now our container is expanding to what I call the God attachment system. So now our attachment system is expanding beyond mom and dad and the primary caregivers. We're experiencing a familial rupture, an ancestral rupture, and a romantic relationship rupture, which all together begin to reorient the system to God and the divine. This is a space where we're really going to be able to access the full potency and totality of our spiritual gifts. Okay? So we have dealing with core trauma at the root chakra. The core trauma, the core story, the core survival identity, and what has historically been elusive to us. And then we experience a attachment rupture of familial, ancestral, or the primary romantic relationship, which brings up the deepest fear and terror in our body so that we can now begin to reorient our attachment system to God. So those are two of the main pieces of why we can access our spiritual gifts and fully integrate them into the body so that we can actually activate on their potential here in the earthly soil. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening to this video. If you haven't subscribed to my channel already, please subscribe and like this video and comment in the comment section below and let me know what resonated with you from the video. Thanks so much, everyone, and we'll see you soon.